I think there are a lot of unique aspects to what we're seeing, and it's obviously the money, the type of money that's flooded the zone, and what it comes of it. I mean, we're in the midst of a grand experiment right now, really. So it's hard to know 100%. There's nothing we can really point to and say, hey, this is just like 1945, right? Or this is just like 1980. We had some pivotal moments in the economy and the history of the United States and the history of the world. And some of those things are the same. But even Ukraine, Russia, the idea that maybe a nuclear weapon could be used, is more realistic. It's not hypothetical. So, it's unique.
This is the Business of Advice podcast, where we help good advisors become great business owners.
Hey, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a special edition of the Business of Advice podcast. We're live here at our Journey event, which is one of our premier training events for the advisors that work with Advisors Excel. And very excited to have my man Charles Payne here with us, a well-known author, journalist, but you've probably seen him most often on Fox Business. So excited to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Everyone. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I know with so much going on, I know they're going to love to hear what you kind of see going on in the market today. But before just start off, I know you started in the mid-'80s at E.F. Hutton, probably as a broker. How'd you get to where you're at today, where people see you on TV every day?
It's an interesting journey. So I got a job at E.F. Hutton, which was fantastic on the research side, which I loved. But it only paid $13,000 a year. Which, by the way, when I first heard the offer, I was ecstatic.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So and I learned a lot. I was surrounded by people who ran a lot of money, and so I was able to learn a lot, ask a lot of questions, but I wasn't making a lot of money. And someone I knew worked at a small boutique firm, brokerage firm, and one day said, hey, they're hiring. The only problem is it's 100% commission. You take the test on your own or whatever, and if you pass it, they'll hire you. And so essentially I took the test, I blew the test away, took the job, and it was pretty tough. This is back in the day, right?
Yeah.
You get a desk and you go in the back room, grab one of these yellow pages that everybody's gone through
people
already. Yeah. And one thing I would do is I would call the names that were hard to pronounce. And I'm not great with names anyway. Even if you watch me on TV, it's embarrassing. I feel sorry for anybody that comes on my show not named Smith. Okay, because I'm going to mess your name up. But anyway, at least I called them. They hadn't been called a million times. And, so it was just sort of a grind. And then I was disillusioned, though, because, at least back then and to a certain degree, even more recently, it wasn't what I had thought. I would have romanticized the industry where you go, you do this research for your clients, and you find them these great stocks. I was selling a stock called Burroughs Wellcome, and they had just created this product AZT for HIV, which hadn't really blown up per se. It was coming up there, if you had picked up a Time magazine, it would be on page 28.
Okay.
Maybe 3 months earlier, it might have been on page 36. It was moving toward the front page to the cover, so I knew it was the place to be. But it wasn't a house stock, so I didn't make any money. And so it was pretty tough. I eventually took my passion for research, my knowledge of the business, and started my own research firm. And, started out of a one-bedroom apartment in Harlem. And I got the big red book. I don't know if you remember the big red book. Had all the brokers in the country. And so in the daytime, I would cold call the brokers and try to sell my research. And at night, I would do the research.
What got you on the Fox Business?
It's
How'd you get
interesting.
into TV?
So the business grew, and then one day I got a phone call, and they said, "Hey, CNBC wants you to come on." I said, "What? Whoa!" So I went, bought a new shirt, went down, got on CNBC, and started going on, and started getting on pretty regularly. Neil Cavuto was there at the time, some of the others. Then Neil Cavuto left for this thing called Fox, and I thought he was crazy. I really did. I'm like, this guy, what the hell? I was like, you leave CNBC?
For that,
yeah, and I remember I got the first call to go on Neil's show at this new thing called Fox. And I get there, and I go down the escalator, and it feels like the room is it's dark. There's not enough lighting. I swear the table had 3 legs. I was holding one up with my knee, and I'm looking at him the whole time like, damn, my man, you blew it. Of course, he didn't blow it. Yeah. And so, long story short, I kept going on, and I was doing all the networks. And eventually he said, hey, we'd like to just have you, exclusively on a contributorship. So initially I was paid per appearance. Then they're like, it's starting to get a little expensive, right? Because how about we just give you a flat number? And okay, and So stipend became something a little bit more over time.
I wasn't going to ask this question, but a lot of our advisors that we work with are on, they're on TV, radio. Any tips you have on just like how to be good on it?
I think the most important thing is to be genuine, not worry about being right. I think a lot of people worry about being right in the moment. I call it the Jim Cramer Syndrome. Where on Monday Jim Cramer loves the semis, and on Friday he's like, "What the hell are you in semis for?" So and I think these folks watch, and they know, and they pay attention. So if you're bullish on Monday but bearish on Tuesday or Wednesday, right? If you're bullish on Monday and we go down on Wednesday, you should be more bullish unless something has completely changed fundamentally. So I think just being authentic, not trying to be right necessarily. I think those for me are the two most important things. And always leave a tidbit. That's how I really started to get more exposure at CNBC. No matter what the topic was, I would leave a little bit of a tidbit on something almost unrelated, but that they were like, whoa, like a fun fact.
That's cool.
And then they would call me back about that subject, so I wasn't boxed into a particular subject.
That's a good idea. Good tip for them. So crazy when you say this, I think about the same for me. So you've been in the industry, let's say, for almost 40 years now. Is there a time as you look back that you would say looks like what we're seeing now? I know we're seeing volatility, inflation. We're going to talk about a few of those things, but just any time similar to this, or are there things you're seeing now that you've never seen before?
I think there are a lot of unique aspects of what we're seeing, and it's obviously the money, the type of money that's flooded the zone, and what it comes of it. I mean, we're in the midst of a grand experiment right now, really. So it's hard to know 100%. There's nothing we can really point to and say, hey, this is just like 1945, right? Or this is just like 1980. We had some pivotal moments in the economy and the history of the United States and the history of the world. And some of those things are the same. But even Ukraine, Russia, the idea that maybe a nuclear weapon could be used, is more realistic. It's not hypothetical. So, it's unique. Listen, I was a broker for about less than 2 years when the crash in '87 happened. And, so that was my first time ever, getting smashed, right, getting crushed. And I thought it was over. I really did. I mean, it was a valuable lesson for me as a young broker. I think I left around 1 o'clock and went to the bar. So I was pretty. You
probably weren't alone.
I knocked a few back, and I'm walking back to the office after the close, and I'm like, well, how'd we finish? And they're telling me, and I'm thinking, like, I need to go back to the bar. And what was really amazing, so I'm just bracing the next few days for all these clients, and they were almost all positive. I was really shocked at how much more positive they were than I was, and certainly than even people in the industry.
Well, one of the things our advisors work primarily with people who are in retirement, transitioning towards retirement. So I think one of the things that's been top of mind, obviously, is inflation, right? Because it impacts you a lot more if you have a fixed-ish style of income. Any advice on what people should be doing right now? Maybe even more like the advisors, they're dealing with someone who's in retirement to work through or talk through kind of this inflationary pressure.
I think they got to have these preemptive conversations. I think that, for instance, the 60-40 portfolio, at least in my mind, is dead right now. I know it's been prematurely called dead for the last 30, 40 years, but I think now it really is, at least for the near term. So, I think it's a great time to have a conversation about what replaces that 40 part. For me, I think it's okay to have, even when you're older, more equity exposure than in the past. It depends on where you put the money, but certainly it's a good time to have those conversations before someone picks up the local newspaper, or, somebody comes from the grocery store and like, damn, just had their own epiphany, like something's wrong, and I got to figure out a way. I'm not keeping up with this. And so I think it's a wonderful opportunity for advisors.
What do you see in inflation? Do you think that's going to stick around for a while? Anything I know research
I do.
is kind of your background.
I do. It's like, the whole debate. I mean, you got the goods inflation that was supposed to wane. I think the Fed really thought that whole transitory thing was based on that. Listen, the old saying is higher prices cure higher prices, but that hasn't been the case. Again, because we're in this grand experiment. You never had $10 trillion between the Federal Reserve and the federal government sloshing around out there. So, some of the things that would happen, 1 + 1 is not 2 anymore. So I see it lingering for a while, and then you start to even pay attention to what the Fed is saying. they're talking about getting to some normalization over the next 3 years. So it's an issue. We initial jobless claims are under 200,000 right now. 11 million job openings. We're in a wage spiral. So it's going to be with us for a while. The key is, can they stop it from being runaway inflation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just had some negative things. Are there things that you're seeing in the market that would give someone reason to be positive also?
I'm just excited about where mankind is, the fourth industrial revolution. I really am. And, I've studied these things. I'm working on the third book, and this will be a big part of that. The book is going to be that. And just, from an investment point of view, I've seen the same things over and over again. And for me, the test is NVIDIA. I think it was 2008, Forbes magazine, January, stock of the year, company of the year, NVIDIA. So I think it's like $15 stock. Promptly goes to $1. Stock of the year, it went to $1, and it
didn't
stayed.
say which way it was going
and
to be
it
stock of the
stayed
year.
there, and it stayed there until finally it lived up to the hype, and then it's up like 36,000%. So I think we're going through some of that now. Some of these things that we've had this sort of hypish phase. Some of it's come out, some of the air's come out, but the metaverse is going to be real. Artificial intelligence is real. Big data is real. Those kind of things are going to be real and extremely impactful and change lives, societies, and it's going to be a wonderful investment opportunity. I always tell people, I'm going to throw my wallet into the metaverse long before I go in. I'm going to go in kicking and screaming, because I'm a natural born Luddite, but I'm going to be invested in there.
That's a good idea. I think even some of the things you're seeing in healthcare and technology
All that,
breakthroughs and that, it's pretty neat right now.
I mean, look at the vaccine.
Yeah.
That was supposed to take 3 years.
Yeah. Yep. What do you see maybe outlook for the markets, maybe short term, medium, long?
Long term, always bullish long term. Short term, ups and downs, the sort of gyrations we're seeing right now. But just more recently, the 5 days after this FOMC meeting, this is the most impressive 5-day period ever after the Fed has gone into a rate hiking cycle. This 41st time, and nothing even comes close. And I think part of that too is because a lot of this is retail. And I just think the retail investors sort of gotten a hip. It's so funny because they've been beaten over the head for their whole lives, like buy low, sell high. But every time it gets low, Wall Street's telling them not to buy. And they kind of like, somewhere in March, April of 2020 said, my broker's hiding out in the foxhole, I'm going to buy.
Yeah.
and so that they're kind of leading the charge right now, which I find to be really fascinating. But again, if you believe that Microsoft is going to be around for the next 100 to 1,000 years, and that it will find ways to grow the business and the stock will eventually go up, why not buy it down here, if you can handle the gyrations?
That's good. Is there anyone that you trust or look to for financial news, financial advice? Or there's some resources out there, more so maybe resources that advisors would love?
Honestly, I got on Twitter to follow for news, really, as a news feed. And I might follow like 500 different financial sites of those, depending on the topic. There's about 50 to 100 people who know certain things, So, and when I get up in the morning, I kind of just go through those feeds just for a glimpse. No one in particular is like the guru or Swami per se, but I think that everyone should find a few people in different niches. Just check out what they're saying, because that's my launching pad, right? If something looks intriguing to me, then I may say, let me go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. Let me go to the Census website. Let me, I may see something in FT, for instance, and what you got to do is, obviously, no matter what the source is, particularly if it's a major media company, filter out the noise part of it, find out where their source is, and then I go to their source, because maybe their interpretation of the news is a little different than the way I might interpret it.
That's good. I know this wasn't a question we were going to talk about, but you talked about you writing a new book. Any thoughts you have? It's one of the things we tell an advisor, got to write a book, right? It's just great.
Yeah.
How have you seen the book impact just even your brand, and any thoughts behind that process?
It's been amazing.
Really,
between the book and the educational service, people want to learn so bad right now. It is so amazing. I mean the numbers are mind-boggling. And I don't know where the book is. I think it might have done so far 150,000, 160,000, but it's mind-boggling. Everyone should write, and I think what you do is you start with maybe just a monthly newsletter. You know,
Good, yeah.
even if you want to do bi-monthly, whatever it is, put your thoughts down on paper, put your observations down on paper. And, you know, I'm not sure how it works with respect to the firm, you know, if compliance has to sign off on it, but, you know, what I feel is that the industry, particularly a lot of representatives, have gotten away from what I was saying I thought a broker should be. And that's you go home, you do your homework, you find these great ideas, and, you know, a lot of it's just, hey, your job is to accumulate money, assets under management, let someone else figure it all out. And, you know, that creates a sort of a real disconnect, because the client wants you to know why the hell why is our portfolio structured this way?
Yep.
You know, and if you weren't part of the team, an architect of the composition of the portfolio, you know, you might lose some credibility. So at the very least, find a way to get your voice in a conversation.
That's cool. Final game. I know we were joking with our buddy David before we walked in here about any time he's on, he's got to make sure he's got his best suit. So when did the suit game go to this new level? Because anytime I tune in, man, you're looking good.
I grew up. My father was in the Army, and like all military guys, what happens to military guys? Like he came in, you go into the military, and there's a place where you kind of get stuck. So his early 70s game was no joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it stayed there, right?
Yeah.
But the part that made me really want to dress well when I watched my father is when he put on his military uniforms. I watch him at night with the brasso, polishing his buckle, polishing his boots, and then I watch him shave in the morning, put everything on, the gig line straight. Between that and then growing up in New York and watching like the flamboyant dressing and things like that, so that was always one of my goals. And always to have my initials on my shirt.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's in style, out of style. I want
You're gonna have it.
That's right.
Cool. Let me ask you if you're okay. A couple quick lightning round questions, and we'll get you on stage. I ask everyone who's on. So as you look back over the past 2 years, I will say now we're about 2 years into this start of COVID. Is there one lesson that you're going to take away that you think you'll carry forward, like for the rest of your life, career?
I honestly, I was already sort of a rose-colored glasses kind of guy, but just being optimistic. Like we find ways, right? It's just, when these big dark clouds of hopelessness, come down, and then everyone's on these soapboxes saying that it's all over. It's we're doomed. We find a way. People find a way. So just to always kind of try to see the positive, because they're out there.
I said during that, sometimes I think we get naive about our history. I read a book called The Splendid and the Vile, which was about Churchill and the bombings of London. And I'm like, you think about what we were going through, then you look, these people every night, bombs are dropping around them. London's still one of the greatest cities in the world.
By the way, Devil in the White City, same author.
Yep.
Amazing.
I haven't read that, but I saw
amazing.
that.
Read it before they make the movie.
Okay.
I think they're going to make a movie, but that's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything that you're doing to drive your own personal growth that you're excited about?
I am sacrificing some of my own, like I'm not physically where I want to be. It's in the day, I usually work. I go to Fox. I get there. It's like 6:20ish. Then I get home and then I work. I'm always just working. So it's I'm not driving my physical growth / health to the degree I want, because it's work and family, and because somewhat guilt-ridden. Whenever I have a chance, I go almost overboard, particularly with the grandkids. So other than that, I've always felt like reading, trying to be introspective. I consider myself a student of the market. I never want to try to be like this guy who knows it all, because those are the people I've always seen kind of rise, and then they know everything, and it's the markets that's wrong, this is wrong, it's never them. They don't adapt, they don't adjust, and things go, things fall off. So it's my main thing is always trying to learn something new every day.
That's good. Is there one book that you've recommended to other people the most? Like if I said, what's your favorite book, what would that be?
There's a lot, but one I think that's really great, and it's not market per se, but Against the Gods. And it's sort of how man learned to take risk. Yep. Back in the day, the whole thing with mythology was always to sort of keep people in place, keep them in line. Everything was a cautionary tale, right? Icarus flew too close to the sun, so you should never take it upon yourself to think you can fly, or so-and-so Prometheus gave fire to humans and was punished for it. So mankind has always been sort of told, hey, don't stay in your lane, don't grow, don't learn. And so this kind of is a great story of how we sort of began to learn how to take risks, quantify it, and things like that. It's one of my favorites, and I think it's one of these books where it can apply whether you're in the market or not. So,
that's a great one.
Yeah.
Final question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, boy. I just think, about my mom, and just, it wasn't one sentence or line, but just the way she just always stayed positive, and that she always had faith and she always believed. And, her life, was hell. She grew up in, deep South Alabama. My grandfather had a farm. And even as an adult over the last 20 years or so, I've only learned how great he was. In my mind, I didn't really appreciate it then as a kid. I would go, and his shoes had turned up. He had one pair of shoes. They didn't have any heat or hot water, running water, and I just kind of I didn't realize that the achievement against the backdrop, against his challenges.
Yeah.
For, my grandmother never used a pillow. She slept with her arms crossed so she could hear the night riders. So I didn't appreciate what they had succeeded against their challenges. And so I lean on that and the things that my mom, because I believe every generation should try to bring up the foundation for the next. You don't have to go from rags to riches per se, but just lift it up a little bit. And that's what I'm always trying to focus on.
That's cool. They did a good job setting it for you.
Thanks a lot.
Just as we wrap up, any ways that people should, obviously they can see you on Fox Business, but other ways that they should stay connected with you?
Yeah, go to my website, wstreet.com, because I do write the commentary every day. I'm really proud of it. I do a big piece on the weekends also. And on Twitter, I'm at CV Payne.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Appreciate you being here. We'll get you on stage.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, bud.
Sounds good.